I was watching guitar YouTube recently when I spotted a video from a guitarist that I like a lot. However, pretty soon into the video he said something that pissed me off a little bit. If you can't focus without getting distracted, guitar is probably not for you. Now the reason that annoyed me is because people have said similar things to me my entire life, and if you've got ADHD, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, you never stick at anything.
If you just concentrated, you'd be so much better.
But that whole idea is the absolute wrong way to look at it and can be really limiting and damaging to people like us. You probably clicked this video because getting better at guitar sometimes feels like a massive f***ing struggle, and all these negative opinions from other people have gradually turned into your own. Let me be crystal clear. You absolutely can succeed on this instrument. If anyone has ever said to you that playing guitar isn't for you because you've got ADHD or you can't concentrate or whatever f***ing reason, do not listen to him, because that is absolute bullshit. You just need the right ways to improve. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a few approaches that worked for me and led to me completing 2 EPs, growing this YouTube channel from nothing, and improving quicker at guitar in the last few years than I did in the 20 or so that I've been playing. But first, tell me if this sounds like you. Ever since you picked up a guitar, running scales, repeating licks, playing the same over and over again just makes your brain itch. It's so boring you'd rather peel your eyeballs, do literally anything else to get away from it. But when you're actually playing, dude, making music, creating something, that is a different story altogether. When you're just jamming songs, noodling, improvising solos, writing riffs, all that sort of stuff, time just flies by and you get completely lost in it. Or maybe when you're practicing, trying your hardest to concentrate and lock in on a part that you're trying to learn, your brain is constantly pushing back with just random stuff.
Wow, this part's hard. What shall I have to eat? How many times do I have to do this? Oops, messed that up. Space Marines are so cool. I wish I was a Space Marine.
It's like pushing your way through a crowded show, and when you do make a mistake, you just can't recover. You've got to clear your head, reset, and start again from the beginning. That situation is just rinse and repeat until you're so burnt out on trying to play the part you're learning that you can't physically bring yourself to play another note. If any of that sounds like you, same dude. That's what guitar's been like for me my entire life, until I found out this one thing that really blew everything wide open for me and changed my entire view on improving. Practicing guitar and playing guitar are 2 completely different things. Practicing guitar is mechanical, can be pretty stale, and gets really boring sometimes, whereas actually playing guitar is fluid and creative and really satisfying. But you do need both, so what do? I want to start these tips by validating something so that you can move forward without any guilt. Teachers, lessons and courses are all incredibly important things for the guitar world, but they might not necessarily work for you because they all tend to approach learning guitar from like a neurotypical standpoint. Most of them assume that you'll be able to sit for hours on end just repeating the same lick or part or technique over and over again without wanting to smash your guitar to pieces. I mean, it's like turning your hobby time into a classroom environment, and that just does not work for me. I don't know about you, but I f***ing hated school. Generally speaking, school is just not fun for people like us, so if you've had lessons and they didn't work for you, that's totally fine and there's nothing to beat yourself up about. The thing is, nothing will suck the joy out of trying to learn guitar than sticking with these regimented practice schedules, and that is not your fault. ADHD brains are incredibly capable at picking up new skills and abilities as long as they're stimulated enough. Dopamine, the thing that our brains doesn't respond to as well, isn't just a feel-good chemical. It's the chemical that our brains use to strengthen and reward beneficial actions. It's the signal to the brain that the thing you're doing is worthwhile and you should do it again. That's why practice can be incredibly boring. Your brain literally isn't being rewarded for the effort that you're putting in. So if you're struggling to improve or stay focused when you're playing guitar, that just means you haven't found the right system yet that keeps that sweet, sweet dopamine flowing. Believe me, dude, I have tried enough guitar courses and spent enough money on learning materials to tell you that it's usually not that worth it. 9 times out of 10, you'll lose money on a download or a subscription that'll probably just sit on your hard drive because it's too f***ing boring to finish. You absolutely do still need guidance though, you just need to find it in the places that excite you, which is what I'm going to talk about in a minute. And if you do think a teacher would help, which it absolutely will do in the beginning when everything on guitar is fresh and new, then try and find one that's really going to spend some time working out what makes you tick and can keep you interested in learning. I know the name of this tip sounds weird, but trust me, I am going somewhere with this. Everyone's either had a pet or knows somebody who's had a pet that will not take their fucking medicine after they've been to the vets. These little pills will make your pet completely better, and all you want is for that to happen. But no matter how many times you try to get it down their gullet, it just gets spit back up on kitchen floor. You start wrapping the tablets in meat, or you start covering it in peanut butter, or you do what I did with both my two cats and started crushing them up like some medieval apothecary and mixing it into some fish paste. Eventually, you find a way to trick the furry little bastards and they get better and everything's good again. That is exactly how I think about the things that I want to get better at on guitar. I know that I need to swallow the tablet that says economy picking because I want to get better at it. So I find ways to wrap economy picking up in delicious things that I love to do, like learning apart from a song that's got an economy pick section, or maybe improvising to a jam track and trying to economy pick as many sections of that as I can. Maybe I write some licks of my own that focus on that technique. Practicing exercises or licks can be like taking a dry bitter pill without something tasty to wash it down. That feeling of a tablet getting stuck in your throat is similar to that tedious feeling when an exercise you're working on gets so monotonous you just cannot physically do it anymore. Instead, use things that you love to do on guitar to sneak your practice in unnoticed. That way you can give yourself a bit of direction, improve in an area that you want to work on, and not lose the fun parts of playing guitar. Also, if you need to wrap your boring practice exercises up in a good YouTube video or a TV show, then do it, dude. People moan about practicing distracted and you should give 100% of your attention all the time, but we're always distracted, so who gives a shit, right? It'll make practicing something to look forward to. Now, the next tip I want to give you has been by far the most effective since I worked out how my brain worked. This will probably be the only time that I open up about my experience with ADHD to this extent in a video. That's also why this part's so late in the video, because you guys who've got this far are either genuinely interested or have some sort of shared experience, and I think it might help. So, since being a kid, I've experienced different mental health issues, problems concentrating at school, risky behaviours, a constant need for distraction and some sort of stimulation. But it was only like a year ago that I figured out that it was likely because my brain wasn't doing the same thing as everybody else's. Me and my fiance used to joke a fair amount about me having ADHD because I literally cannot sit still, but it was only until something prompted me to really reflect on my life and experiences that I started to take the idea seriously. That eventually led me to some scientifically backed assessments that would show me how likely it was that I do have ADHD. If I remember right, a score of 16 was a strong likelihood that you'd receive a positive diagnosis. I got something like 36, so I guess I passed. Anyway, I went to the doctors armed with this information and spoke to the therapist psychiatrist lady who was incredibly good and listened to me talk about all my experiences and stuff that I'd written down, and she said that she thought it was highly likely that I'd receive a positive diagnosis. She wasn't allowed to diagnose me though because I had to go through a specialist, which was going to take about 2 years at the time. It's something like 10 years now in the UK. In light of that, I opted not to go on the waiting list because really, the only thing a diagnosis will get me is the ability to have medication, and I don't want to take any drugs for personal reasons, but I am considering maybe getting a private diagnosis down the line. The reason I'm telling you all this is because it ended up being a breakthrough moment for me, and it led to me finding out the one thing that would be the biggest impact on my guitar playing. Writing fucking music, dude, for so many reasons. The first is that it's by far the easiest way to get the pet medicine approach into my guitar time. I spoke about this a little bit in my 5k Q&A video where I was asked about my practice routine. The way I practice is kind of the same way that I learn anything. I'll try to write music that is like slightly above what I can actually play, or include licks and stuff that I know I can't play, and then I'll practice them until I get them right. When I understood myself a little bit better, I decided to stop banging myself. Nice. Basically, I'm happiest when I'm writing riffs or songs or demos for this channel, so when I understood myself a little bit better, I decided to stop banging my head against practice routines that weren't working for me and really embrace the stuff that I loved most about guitar. I started to actually write my own music, which had always been a goal, and I intentionally put parts in those songs that I knew I couldn't play. A lot of people don't even really think about writing music this way, but it makes so much sense. By including parts in your music that are hard for you, you're giving yourself a challenge that will make you a better guitar player, but it's positively reinforced by the fact that you're writing that song and whatever you create is something that you can be massively proud of at the end of it. And it's super flexible. Like, one song that you're writing could include a technique that you really want to get nailed, or the next song that you're writing could be a little bit faster than you're used to playing, so you'd be increasing your speed. Whatever you want to include. All the while you're also becoming a better songwriter and a better musician in general. The other thing about this way of improving at guitar is that it actually gives you purpose. A lot of us who have ADHD, and a lot of people that don't actually, struggle with not really having a purpose in life. Honestly, uselessness is a feeling that I'm pretty familiar with, and when I've got a project to work on and an actual purpose, I'm much happier, not just when I'm playing guitar, but just in life in general. But to get the most out of this, you need to lean on your favourite guitarists, the ones that you really want to sound like. It goes without saying, but you can't always just pull a lick or technique out of your arse if you can't play it, so it's a good idea to make notes of the songs and parts of songs that you really want to emulate and include in your own playing style so that you can start to incorporate them in your own tunes. I'm not saying you should steal licks, but I am saying that you need to borrow the ideas to inform what you're writing. Make the necessary changes to the idea so that it fits your song, and you'll end up creating something fresh anyway whilst also absorbing the technique. That's literally why the first track on my second EP is called Consume Regenerate. And don't worry, I've found it's much harder to sound like somebody else than it is to sound like yourself. So unless you're actually copying parts of songs, then your music's going to sound like you whatever you do. Let's finish up by addressing the opinion that if you can't concentrate, music isn't for you. I'm not going to name the guy who said that on the video I watched, but I will say that he's a phenomenal musician and guitarist, and I'm actually a big fan. I don't believe for a second that he was out to try and attack anyone. What he was trying to get across is that right now it's harder and harder to concentrate because of the world that we live in. Short form content, social media, always having a phone in your pocket, that kind of thing. Music does require dedication, and he's completely right about that. But the idea in general that you can't do music or get good at guitar if you can't concentrate is such a surface level bullshit thought. I've heard things like that all my life, and it just does more harm than good, to be honest. You can quite easily break someone down to the point that they just don't want to try anymore because they feel like it's pointless, when really, in my opinion, you should be lifting people up and trying to help them adapt and find the ways to learn that work for them. When ADHD people are given the tools they need to succeed at a task, or are allowed to follow the paths that most interest them, their ability to pick up and put into practice new skills is absolutely huge. You absolutely can 100% get as good at guitar as you want to be. It's so hard though when the things that everybody accepts as like the working ideas to get better at something aren't working for you. But sometimes all it takes is just someone to say to you, "Fuck this, let's try something different." It's not always easy though, but music isn't. There are going to be difficult parts however you try to approach it, but it's not about concentration, it's about determination. Let me know if this helped you in any way, and if you've got any questions, feel free to fire them across because I would love to hear your take on this. And remember, if anyone says you can't, fuck them, because you can.